there is a risk in our macroeconomic stability. As a country, we must be alive to it, and we must just accept facts are there and live within our means. I say so because I would want us to look at this projected revenue, which is actually a projection. And as we speak, the last 2 months, we have failed to collect what we should have collected by 18 billion, 18.5. So the 2 months under collection is already 18.5, meaning on average, if the trend continues, on average, we are failing to collect not less than 9 billion what we should collect. And so with that figure in mind, if it obtains for 12 months, then we will under-collect this 2.6 trillion by not less than 108 billion. But be that as it may, our projected revenue is 2 trillion 631, the ordinary revenue. But look at this, interest on domestic debts alone, that is debt servicing costs, is 750 billion. That will be paid.
What wisdom was put in place that justifies the tweet? Because it's still not justifiable. Does it mean now we dismiss all the CHPs? Does it mean that we do not adhere to the policies of NSSF that has been set? The issue of the housing levy? What then are we supposed to do? What should the counties do? Should also the counties not borrow? Yet disbursement is always delayed. Should our people at the counties not get their salaries on time? Put him in mind. The same revenue that you collect also comes from the same 47 counties. Why did you not even reduce 1 billion? Why 20 billion? It's still not really coming out that justifies.
Why is it so easy to make a decision to slash funds for county governments, and you find it difficult to tell members of the National Assembly to equally slash CDF?
What is the scientific explanation of the 20 billion? Is it an arbitrary number, and then there's a laundry list that is a wish list that each county will then go and navigate through their discretionary expenses to match that gap? Or is it that, is it just a number that came from some inspiration?
Opinions are divided on this. If you engage with Parliament, they will tell you a different opinion. What we have done is to seek the proper legal opinion now from the government legal advisor, the Attorney General. And actually today I'd asked for a follow-up to that letter. I am sure by the end of the day I'll know whether AG has acted. If she will have not acted, I will call her personally so that we get off this matter. We have already made a provision for next week to make transfers to counties. We want to make transfers to counties. If the opinion will come positive, we will make the 32 billion thereabout.
Can you just affirm the figure?
Yeah, it's about 32 per month. It's about 32 billion.
Per month?
Yes, per month,
okay.
Monthly. For us to be able to clear. I'm working with 380, by the way. Yeah, on that assumption. So if it will be 400 billion, we'll adjust appropriately. I want to start by assuring the committee, because you've just mentioned that you had a smooth running the past 2 years in terms of your engagement with the National Treasury. I want to give the assurance that that is not going to change. If not, maybe it may be better. First, because I've been a member of Parliament for 17 years, and therefore I am very alert of the constitutional responsibility of the August House as People's Representative House. And so you have a mandate and duty under the Constitution to hold the executive to account and also to resolve matters of importance to the people. Having said that, I got an invite to appear before the Senate Committee on Finance and Budget to give views regarding the Division of Revenue Amendment Bill 2024. Chair, you'll recall, which is the National Assembly Bill number 38 of 2024. You recall, Chair, that we, or the National Assembly and the Senate, passed the Division of Revenue Bill 2024, which was assented to and became the law. But then now there is a bill before you, which is an amendment to the same. So we have reviewed the Division of Revenue Bill, Madam Chair, and I believe you have, I don't know whether you have my write-up in your files. We have reviewed it against the proposed legislative bill submitted by the National Treasury to Parliament on 15th of July 2024 and made the following observations. The National Treasury is in agreement with the amendment to Section 5 of Division of Revenue Act 2024, number 5 of 2024, to indicate that if the actual revenue in the financial year 2024-25 falls short of the expected revenue, the shortfall shall be borne by both the national government and county governments equitably, and that county governments shall bear not more than 15% of this shortfall. Number 2 is that further the National Treasury is proposing or proposes that the Division of Revenue Amendment Bill 2024, National Assembly Bill number 38 of 2024 be amended further by deleting Schedule S4 of the bill or Schedule 4 of the bill and substituting therefore the following new schedule, and the new schedule is indicated below. I don't want to go into the details of the new schedule, but the totality of it is to have county equitable share of revenue at 380 billion shillings. There is a rationale, Madam Chair, why this is proposed. The Division of Revenue Amendment Bill 2024 proposes to allocate county government's equitable share, as I've just indicated, of 380 billion from the shareable revenue raised nationally, reflecting a reduction of 20.117 billion from an early allocation of 400.117 billion, which was initially allocated in the Division of Revenue Act 2024. This was occasioned by the fact that the projected revenue raised nationally for the financial year 2024-25 dropped significantly by 346 billion. And when I talk of dropping, it's estimates. These are projections from the earlier projected revenue collection of 2,948 billion.12 to the current 2,602.12 billion due to the revised revenue raising measures, which I may elaborate to later once I'm done with with this written submission. Madam Chair, this drop was is at about 11.7%. That's the projected drop. However, the National Treasury has made further fiscal adjustments that have reduced the shortfall from 346 billion to now the current 316.72 billion. The revised ordinary revenue for financial year 2024-25 is therefore projected at 2,631 billion.42. Actually, this is now the figure we need to work with. The projected ordinary revenue for this fiscal or financial year will be 2,631.42. Note that this happened during the finalization of the Supplementary Budget Estimate 1 for financial year 2024-2025, which was after the submission of the Division of Revenue Amendment Bill 2024. And the revised fiscal framework for financial year 2024-25, Equalization Fund has an allocation of 8 billion, out of which 7.85 billion is allocation for the current financial year 2024-2025, and the remaining 146.7 million will go towards payment of arrears as indicated in the proposed new Schedule 4. So the arrears, we intend to pay the arrears under Equalization Fund in bits. In order to bridge the financing gap of 316.72 billion, as well as enable the national government to provide resources towards critical expenditure areas, it is proposed that 2.243 trillion is allocated to the national government, while 380 billion is allocated to county governments. This translates to 93.64% of the shortfall being borne by the national government, while counties bear 6.35% of the shortfall. That is the 296 billion against 20 billion respectively. The shortfall in the share of national government revenue has been partly covered by adjustment of budget allocations to the executive, the legislature, the judiciary, and the constitutional commissions in the financial year 2024-25. So the shortfall, which is borne by the national government, has actually been prorated or cut to the or charged to the expenditure to the executive. Legislature has also borne the brunt, and the judiciary, as well as constitutional commissions. The proposed allocation of 380 billion as county government's equitable share is informed by the following factors. One is low ordinary revenue collections attributed to the ongoing geopolitical shocks. Two, increased expenditures for national government for purposes of debt servicing. Three, national government continues to solely bear shortfalls in revenue in any given financial year, thus pushing up borrowing and therefore debt stock. Four, financing constraints due to limited access to finance in the domestic and international financial markets. And then five, financing of mandatory expenditures under Article 203, one of the Constitution, which is summarized in the table below. And the table is there is basically the national interests. We have there the public debts, the pensions and constitutional service and others. This table has been slightly adjusted. Maybe I'll give the correct or the updated figures. Other national obligations, we have emergencies, equalization fund, and then we have the balance there, which then a huge part of it goes to the county governments. So in terms of justifying our action, I would start by saying that it should be noted that the projected ordinary revenue for the financial year 2024-25 of 2,631 billion is based on the baseline of 2,290 billion, which we collected in the 2023-24 financial year, which was below our target by 172 billion by end of June 2024. So we under-collected in 2023-24 financial year by 172 billion. So the baseline is 2.29 trillion, and then now we project to collect 2.631 trillion. In the past, this shortfall has been borne by the national government, and therefore the 459 billion, which is indicated as a balance that remains for national government in 2024-25, may not be tenable. Number two, due to withdrawal of the Finance Bill of 2024, there are critical and national interests that are unfunded. These include employment of junior secondary school teachers, and Madam Chair, I will be clear here that yes, we have provided for JSS teachers, but from January because of insufficient funds. That is number one. So the money that we have to take care of employment on permanent terms for JSS teachers is going to be available from January 1st. Posting of medical interns to support health service delivery, those are very critical, unfunded activities, and implementation of universal health coverage, and meeting continental obligation to construct the 5 stadia for hosting Africa Cup of Nations. The government's committed to implement a fiscal consolidation plan targeting to reduce the fiscal deficit from 5.8 in the financial year 23-24 to 4.3 of the GDP in the current financial year. This is designed to slow down public debt accumulation. Number 4, trends in the performance of revenue was taken into consideration in determining the 20 billion that we propose to reduce the equitable share going to the counties with. taking into account the revised revenue raising measures. And finally, the revised allocation for 380 billion proposed for this financial year is only 1% less than the 385 billion allocated in the financial year 2023-24. We conclude that this allocation is consistent with the constitutional provision of Article 203(1) that envisages stable and predictable allocation of revenues to county governments. As a matter of fact, Madam Chair, if you work out the percentage of this proposed county equitable share of revenue of 380 against the last audited revenue, it is 24.2%. But if you compare it to the revenue that we collected last year, even if you don't, you get the latest revenue collection, it is still 16.6%. So it is still within the constitutional threshold. But, Madam Speaker, Madam Chair, that is insofar as this submission is concerned. I want to just mention a couple of things. Maybe it will take me 2 or 3 minutes so that we see where we are. You know, Madam Chair, and together with the honorable senators, there is a risk in our macroeconomic stability. As a country, we must be alive to it, and we must just accept facts are there and live within our means. I say so because I would want us to look at this projected revenue, which is actually a projection. And as we speak, the last 2 months, we have failed to collect what we should have collected by 18 billion, 18.5. So the 2 months under collection is already 18.5. Meaning that on average, if the trend continues, on average, we are failing to collect not less than 9 billion what we should collect. And so with that figure in mind, if it obtains for 12 months, then we will under-collect this 2.6 trillion by not less than 108 billion. But be that as it may, our projected revenue is 2,631,000,000, the ordinary revenue. But look at this. Interest on domestic debts alone, that is debt servicing costs, is 750 billion. That will be paid. The interest on external borrowing or external debts is 260 billion. That must be paid. So that gives you a total of 1,010 billion. Then we have other CFS expenditures. The pensions, the payments to constitutional office holders is 190.4 billion. That total comes to 1.2 trillion. So if you subtract that from the projected revenue of 2.631 trillion, you are left with only 1.431 trillion. And our salary, our wage bill for the national government, every month we spend 75. That's the payroll, 75 billion. 12 months will give us 900 billion. So it means, therefore, that if you remove that from what we were left with, you would be left with only 531 billion shillings. And if we transfer 380 billion, the adjusted figure, to the counties, then we are left with 151 billion. Here, Honorable Chair and members, the senators, you have not taken into consideration the recurrent expenditure for the national government. You have not taken into consideration the CDF allocation, which is now 68 billion shillings. And you have not taken care of the other small ones like the National Government Affirmative Action Fund. So it means, in a nutshell, as a country and for a long time now, we have been borrowing to finance recurrent expenditure, which is first unconstitutional, and two, I think it's even immoral as a country to borrow money to support recurrent expenditure. And therefore, that is why I insist that we must reduce our expenditure. And so, our stability as a country, our macroeconomic stability, is affected largely by interest rates, which is pushing our debt upwards. It's also the stability of our currency. But of late, at least we have managed that. So two more things. Oh, I think my last comment would be that we have managed and we need to support, because if we lapse, then it would be problematic. We have managed. There are economic fundamentals like interest rates. We are managing to reduce interest rates. We have started reducing the interest rates. Inflation has come down to below 5%, which is our baseline, to the latest 4.2%, 4.2 years. Our economic growth is above average is above sub-Saharan average and is above world average. And our currency stability has been restored. Now with that, therefore, what I would plead we do as a country is to support this fiscal consolidation, whatever it takes. I know we need to protect our counties, and I am in that school. But again, to protect the counties in the long run, we need to have fiscal consolidation. Because without that, we may imagine that we are protecting counties, and yet in the long run, everybody else will not be protected, whether counties or national government. And Madam Chair,